Back up, he's fine.
Row, your boat.
I bet you could. Because when you're doing it in real life, that 2 minutes flies.
That's the same that you had.
Is that
And of course, now obviously if the person starts breathing or shows any signs of activity, then obviously you quit.
Right. That's right.
I just think I could never understand that pay. And I could never get that.
It was to make sure you push hard enough,
Well,
fast
with
enough.
all my mother, but you know what?
Well,
She's practicing for me. She thinks I'm gonna go out with a heart attack one of these days, so that's the reason she's doing that.
so,
Stay in line, stay in line.
a little strainer. Yes, ma'am.
That's what I think.
If the baby's not
That's a good one.
you can do CPR. You should. Everything else is the same. A year old puberty, try with one hand. If you can't get it deep enough with one hand, you can add the second one. So other than that, it's still the same. Now, the scary ones are but usually you won't, because their bones are spongy, so you usually sit on two. Well, good for her. Just 2 fingers, 1 hand.
Yeah, well, I'm sure, yeah.
Could do it.
You can.
She's good, she's good.
I know that feeling, Mary.
Go to tempo.
So somebody asked a question that was a good question, so I want to share with everybody. You can do CPR on infants and children. If they're not breathing, that is the appropriate thing to do. So for an infant birth to a year old, you still do armpit to armpit line. So you still put your hand in the same place. You still row your boat. You just use 2 fingers. From 1 year to about the time they hit puberty, it's the same except 1 hand. Now, that may be a little different. My son's 8 and he's 55 pounds soaking wet. 1 hand would work. There's a kid in his class who is 8 and 130 pounds. You would need 2 hands. So you just got to kind of use your judgment on that. Now for teenagers and adults, if their heart stops, it's almost always a heart problem. For children and infants, it's usually a breathing problem. So if you know how to do mouth to mouth, for infants and kids, it's still helpful. But if you don't know how, or you don't want to, because I mean, if it's not a kid you know, I get that. Do the compressions, and that's okay. We'll start doing some breathing for them and stuff when we get there. But the only difference is infants, 2 fingers, kids, 1 hand. Other than that, still row your boat.
Can you still buy that mask that you put over their mouth and we break off too?
You can, but you don't need it for teenagers.
But you know, I'm telling a lot of people that don't
Yes.
because they're afraid of those things.
Yeah.
Well, we have a grandson that's 8, he probably weighs 100 pounds or more. And his older brother is 11, he might weigh 70 pounds. So
Isn't it funny how kids are so different? Mine are both little, but personality, they're night and day.
Now, on Charlotte's TV, last week or week before, they had an infant that was in a car seat that quit breathing. 2 officers took the child out of the car seat because the mother pulled over. She, of course, did not know what to do. She had no CPR. And that officer took that child and laid the child like this on its stomach on his hand and popped it
Then
like
that kid
this
was choking. That's
on
choking
the back.
relief.
Well, they said the child was not breathing.
Right.
Okay.
So, for police officers, they get more training than just this. But if he turned him over on his hand, he thought that kid was choking, because that's what we do to relieve choking in kids. But if they're not breathing, even if you think they're choking, you just do CPR. And it will work most of the time. Luckily, we do not do CPR on infants and kids very much. They're few and far between, thanks to
Do
the
you use that machine on
Yes, you can.
AEDs and children?
You can. A lot of AEDs have pediatric pads in them, so they're the same stickers, they're just smaller.
Okay.
If they don't have those, you can use the adult ones, you just put one on the front and one on the back.
I didn't know if the charge would be too much.
It is, but, and they used to say we could not use an adult AED on a child because it's too much charge, but too much is better than none at all.
None.
How much do those cost?
You can get, probably anywhere from about $900 to $3,000. It's the difference between a Ford and a Cadillac. Personally, I'd buy a Ford. So you can get them in a lot of different price ranges. What a lot of people get, what I've seen a lot of folks purchase recently, are the Philips brand or the, what is it called? It's green. No, it's yellow. I can't remember what it's called. But you can go to any AED, type in buy AED on Google, and it'll take you to these websites. But a lot of people get the Philips, and those are usually on the more cost-effective end, and they work very well.
So if you buy one, and then of course you need to put it in a place where people can see it and they can find it. So then, does it have to be, like the batteries have to be switched out, or what kind of maintenance?
So usually for most of them, now that's where you gotta be careful when you buy them, because you can buy some that require a maintenance plan, but they don't really need it, because they charge you for that maintenance plan. What we do is, we encourage businesses, churches, schools, if you have an AED, to register it with the county. And all that means is if there is one here, if somebody calls 911 from this address, that 911 operator can tell them where the AED is. Which is great, because if all of you in this room know where it is, but y'all not here, that's a problem. So that 911 person can tell them. With that registry, whoever is the contact person will get an email from me twice a year, and it says check the date on your pads to make sure they're not expired, and turn your machine on to make sure the battery's working. But the batteries usually last many years, and if you turn them on ever so often, you'll know if it's working or not. And most of the ones you can buy, most that people buy for businesses and churches and such, when you turn them on, it'll run through a quick test. All right. Well, very good questions. Thank y'all so much. It's always easier to talk to people who talk back. I teach some classes and they just stare at me.
Probably when you leave, we'll think of some more questions.
That's okay. You have my email address.
I got one before you leave.
Yes, ma'am.
She found her son face down unconscious. How does she know whether he had a seizure, a stroke, or a heart attack? How could they find that out?
Right then.
Because right now, she doesn't really know what he had.
He doesn't remember notice.
Well, they can do, well, he won't remember anything with probably most of those, but they can do testing to figure out which one it is. Because if it's a stroke, a CT will catch it. The problem with that is mini strokes, as they call them, don't leave behind any trace on a CT. But if it's a stroke, a CT will find it. If it's a heart attack, an EKG will find it. If it's a seizure, an EEG will find it. So it's a bunch of tests. But it's worth it to know.